Hey, so so this week I've been prompted by, well, a couple of things actually. I bought a Black Friday deal from StreamYard. I made a thought that I really should do a lot more video, and I've got this idea that I'd actually like to do something with my YouTube channel and grow the number of subscribers, and so do more with that. And then thirdly, I've been looking around a lot at comments inside predominantly Facebook groups which relate to coaches, consultants, trainers, therapists, people like this, and seeing some of the things from reading the comments in terms of what they want to accomplish, what they want to achieve, and also what they feel they are missing. So I thought I'd share a couple of ideas about that. So I've kind of set myself a little bit of a mini challenge that this week I will do a video each day, short video, just kind of short, sweet, deliver one kind of key concept that I want you to kind of get your head around that would have, from my perspective, an impact on both your bottom line in terms of the profit you have, the people you can reach in terms of the impact you can have, and as importantly, of course, if you know me at all, having fun, because I don't see any point in building a business that you're not enjoying. So I put together literally 2 slides. So let me bring this up. So I've called this Nailing Your Business Model. So this is kind of video 1 today. I'm going to do one each day for the next few days till Friday. Nailing your business model is the key to having more fun, more profit, and more impact. So, and that kind of is, because what I've seen is a lot of comments around this idea of, what does it take to hit, say, $10,000 a month or £10,000 a month in revenue in a coaching business? And also some of the responses to that in terms of the things that real coaches feel are limiting their ability to do that. So things like not having the time, things like not understanding how to market and sell themselves properly, having an understanding of even finding their ideal client because somebody's introduced them to the concept of an ideal client, and now they're kind of overthinking that. Actually, I would say as a tangent that overthinking is probably one of the biggest hurdles to get over. I think the coaching industry, and maybe it is a reflection of the industry, attracts people like me who have a habit of overthinking everything. And I would say the other side of it as well is, and this isn't everybody, but if you've ever done a Myers-Briggs profile, then I am an ENFP, so extrovert, intuitor, feeler, perceiver. And within that, I feel that, funny enough, feel, that as an intuitor, I'm not, I don't like overly planning. I can overthink things, but I'm not great at over planning everything down to the last detail. And actually, this week was a way for me to kind of get around that, because one of the things I've realized about my strengths is that if you can play to your strengths, then it's so much easier to do anything. And certainly when it comes to building a business, way easier to build a business. And if you can play to your strengths, then you can find a way. Like for me, freedom matters. So if I was going to build a business, but you said to me, look, in order to build this business, you've got to every single day, from 5 o'clock in the morning, at 5 o'clock, you got to get up, at 5:01, you got to do this, at 5:02, you got to do this, and so on, so on, so on, all the way through the day, all the way until 5 o'clock in the evening. I wouldn't do it, because there's no freedom in that. There's no autonomy. It's like one of the big reasons for building a business or starting your own coaching business or an information business is that idea of autonomy. It's like, can I have control of my destiny, my time? And I want to show you that you can. And one of the keys is there's an element where you want to do enough planning to make sure you're on the right path and you're going in the right direction. But actually, too much planning will kill your creativity, your spontaneity. And that's also one of the reasons I want to do more of these kind of lives. Like if I do these live, then I'm trying to get back to that feeling of being in front of an audience. So if I do more lives, one, I'll get more comfortable doing lives. And secondly, I'll get more comfortable not having an audience to read. Does that make sense? Now, I'm hoping, of course, as this progresses, then we're going to get more comments on my videos. And obviously, I can see the comments and I can use those almost like a Q&A session with a live audience. So we'll see how this progresses. That's a bit of a ramble. That's a bit of me not planning everything, but that's a bit of a pre-frame of what I'm doing over the next 5 days. So today is all about nailing your business model, because as I've said here, nailing your business model is the key to having more fun, more profit, and more impact. Let me switch this out a little bit. So see more of me, less of the slide. Again, leave a comment. Would you rather see more of the slide or more of me? I don't mind. I appreciate my face might hurt some people's eyes at times. So anyway, let me move on to the next slide. I'm sharing the screen. Let me get my keynote slides up. Here we go. So next slide. So business model, baked in leverage. Look, if you are a coach or a consultant, then the default mode for all of us is to go from, oh, I've gone and done my coach training, like I did NLP back in the day, many, many years ago, like 20 odd years ago, literally now. I mean, I became a certified trainer of NLP in 97, 98, somewhere around there. So like a long time ago. And the default mode for anybody, or for most of us going into coaching, is we kind of think, okay, I'm a coach, then I'm going to see people one-on-one. And in the beginning, I think there is nothing wrong with one-on-one. In fact, I think one-on-one has some real value if you approach it from a perspective of wanting to understand your market. So just going off tangent slightly, this idea of understanding your ideal client. In the beginning, I know for me, when I first started out, I literally went and got a little office in London and I ran some tiny ads in Time Out magazine. And from that, I saw, and the ads were just like whatever popped in my head. I popped my head, oh, I should help people quit smoking. So I ran adverts on helping people quit smoking, attracted some clients, worked with them, didn't enjoy it. It was like, well, actually, I don't want to do that. And then I ran adverts for other things. And then I got, friends referring people to me. And so I did a lot more kind of, I guess, more the therapeutic side of things in the sense of dealing with, not just smoking, but other issues, emotional issues and so on, which was all great. It was all a big learning experience. But the one big advantage of doing one-on-one is you learn about your clients. You learn a lot more about your marketplace. So the value of one-on-one, and this was reinforced for me by a good friend of mine, a good mentor who recently, very sadly, passed away in the last couple of weeks ago, Errol Abramson, who was a very good mentor of mine. And he always talked about the value of one-on-one. He said, like, no matter what marketplace you're going into, no matter what product you're selling, and he, built 47 businesses over his lifetime, and wasn't selling coaching. He was selling tangible products from health supplements, even had a business that ran stem cell research and things later in his career. But what he said was the big value of one-on-one conversations is that ability to get inside your marketplace. And I've heard this repeated a couple of times recently from other very successful business coaches, this idea that if you can talk to people one-on-one, they will tell you things they wouldn't ordinarily share with you. So in terms of getting inside your client's mind, one-on-one is very valuable, but one-on-one is very limited in terms of leverage. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have a one-on-one model. I think perhaps you should if it works for you. But what I do want to share is this idea of give some conscious thought to what your business model is from before you start. So I put here, business model baked in leverage. So I've got 3 simple questions that I think you need to answer. And I want to give you my thoughts on these questions. But the first of these is, what are you selling? Like, you're not selling coaching per se. Like, that's too intangible. And so this idea of dropping in, going, well, I've got certified as a coach, I got my certificate, woohoo, let's go. And I'm going to get some clients, I'm going to do some coaching, and I'm going to do what kind of coaching? And it's sort of easy to copy what's out there. So people drop into, well, I'm either selling some sort of mindset coaching, life coaching, business coaching. It's all very vague. It's all very intangible. And actually, your clients want more than that. So what are you actually selling? And so let me give you some thoughts on this. Are you selling a one-on-one session? Because if you're selling a one-on-one session, your clients are immediately going to be thinking about, okay, I'm buying something. I'm buying an hour of your time. What do I get for my hour? What do I get out of the hour? What do I see in terms of progress? Because ultimately, as you've probably heard a million times before, your clients are buying a result. That's what they want. They're not so interested in whether your delivery is called coaching, or whether your delivery is called therapy, or whether your delivery is called Blue Mountain Super Coffee Injection one-on-one 60 minutes with Paul time. They don't care. What they want is the results. So what are you selling? So give some thought to that. Now, where I would also expand this is kind of ties in with the next question of how are you selling it? So I would expand it in the sense of, okay, how are you selling what you offer? So you can take your knowledge and you can put that into a course, for example. So like you could record it, turn it into a set of videos with a few kind of key worksheets, wrap it in, it's easy enough to put it online, easy enough to put it in some sort of learning environment. And then you're now selling a course. But it's important to understand right from the beginning what it is you are actually selling. Because what I've noticed as a pattern is people don't seem to know what they're actually selling. They've got caught in the idea of I sell coaching. That's not tangible. That's not, if you can't, for your client, if your client can't kind of get an idea of, well, how do I put this in a box? Then it's very difficult for them to make a picture in their head of what it is they're actually buying. If it's difficult for them to make a picture in their head of what they're buying, are they going to buy? Unlikely. They're going to and ah, need to think about it. You'll hear that a lot, need to think about it, if they're not clear what they're really getting. And they're not clear what they're really getting if you're not clear what you're offering. So what are you selling first and foremost? And I think it ties in with how are you selling it? Like you could sell a program. So in the sense of it could be like, you know, you do a particular, your whole thing is you're not buying a one-on-one session, you're buying 8 sessions or 6 sessions delivered weekly, every other week, once a month. Each session is 30 minutes, each session is an hour, each session is 45 minutes. What is it? And at the end of it, you will have X results. Now, you could sell it that way. You could sell one-on-one that way very easily. Now, of course, there's a limit to how many clients you can take on. But of course, it might be that because you're doing one-on-one, then obviously the perceived value goes up. So it may be that you quite comfortably hit your revenue goals just selling some form of one-on-one coaching, but it's not packaged as coaching. So how are you selling it? So it could be, okay, look, I'm selling a block, a program, which consists of 8 sessions, one-on-one, and each session is 40 minutes. And they are every second week. So every 2 weeks, the client gets a session. And in between times, of course, there might be things they have to do. So how are you selling it? If you're selling a course, you kind of go, well, I'm not doing any one-to-one. I'm taking everything that I know about this. Here's the result you're going to get. But actually, you're just going to walk through listening to me. I'm going to give you a set of videos. And at the end of each video, will explain what you need to do. So step 1 is video 1, step 2 is video 2, and so on and so on and so on. And there'll be some sort of worksheet to fill in. And you're basically just kind of working along. So you're doing it for yourself, but you've got really the educational support to get you on the right path and the understanding to know how to take the right steps, so that ultimately by the time you finish the 8 courses, or the 8, sorry, not the 8 courses, the 8 modules of this course. So again, it could be modular. It could be each video is now 40 minutes and each video, a new video is released every second week. So, you know, the software takes care of that. They get first video day 1, the next video gets released delayed 2 weeks later, up it pops and they can log in and then they can finally see it. And in between times, of course, they're doing whatever work they need to do based on the video. So you can sell it that way. Now that gives you a huge amount of leverage because of course you're not there. So you're selling something where you've literally taken your knowledge, packaged it in some way, and now you've got ultimate leverage. All you've got is it's out there. It's a process. It's a system that people go through. You're not involved at all. And of course, that gives you complete free time. You can go off and do whatever the hell you want and spend most of your time focused on the marketing and selling, which we'll talk about later in the week. But it's important that you think about how you're doing this. Like, and I've tied it back for me personally. What I've done is I tied it back to what do I want? So in the sense of how much freedom do I want? How much autonomy do I want? What excites me the most? Like I want my life to have meaning in the sense of I want to know that I'm having an impact on people's lives, that I'm making a difference in some way. What I also want is autonomy and freedom. You know, I love all of that. I love that freedom of being able to do what I want, when I want, you know, to a certain extent, and how I want. So therefore, it was no point building a business for me that required me to be delivering, you know, one-on-one 60-minute sessions, 40 hours a week. That just wasn't going to work for me. So it's important to think about, okay, how are you selling it and what are you selling? Because this is your business model. It's like, how much leverage do you want built in? Because of course, if you own it, you're only selling one-on-one and you're starting out and you say, well, nobody knows me. I'm not well known in the marketplace. I'm going to do some one-on-ones. And I've seen this repeated over and over and over again, where people are like, well, I'm going to start out and I'm going to charge X amount an hour. And, you know, it could be $50 an hour. It could be $100 an hour. It could be $1,000 an hour. Who knows? But they're just selling it their time by the hour. And of course, if you're doing that, and there's what, let's say 40 hours in the week that you can actually work. And of course, that doesn't leave much time for marketing yourself or actually promoting what you're doing or growing your visibility in any way. But if you were doing that, then of course, that's a job. That's a full-time job. And if you were genuinely seeing that many clients, what would that be? 8 clients a day or something? 8 clients a day, 5 days a week. I mean, personally, I find that exhausting. and it doesn't leave a lot of time. It doesn't even leave time for bathroom breaks, let alone anything else. So that would be, I would find that would be painful for me. But that's typically where people go with their default, because nobody's shared with them this idea that actually you need to think about what your business is going to look like, what it's going to be like, what it's going to sound like. Like if you apply, some of the NLP philosophy around setting outcomes, then one of the things within there is like, when you've got it, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And I think it's valuable to do that with your business, to kind of say, when you achieve whatever goal it is you want for your business, and your business is running smoothly and everything's working brilliantly, what does it look like? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? And the foundation of that is your business model. So it's like, bake in the leverage, bake in the time freedom, bake in the scale, bake in the impact. So if you want to reach 40 people and that's all you want to reach, then yes, see 40 people a week. If you replicate that and say, well, they only need to see me once for an hour and I can see 40 people a week and I'm happy to work 50 weeks a year, then you're going to see, what's that? 50 times 40, what's that? 2,000 people a year, something like that. And you go, okay, well, I get to see, I impact 2,000 people's lives. Great. But on a practical level, it won't work, because to see 40 people a week and grow your visibility and market yourself and so on, and bring people into your sphere of influence and move them to make a purchase from you, that's probably not going to work. So then obviously, how you're selling it. Do you want to run a course business? And you can run a hybrid as well. So don't look at this in terms of saying, okay, look, I'm just doing courses, or I'm just doing one-on-one sessions, or even take it further, I'm just doing group sessions. So then if you make it a hybrid model, you could have courses, like I have courses. So I have courses that I promote, and I have very deliberately created both small educational courses, small in the sense of they're typically less than an hour, and the price point is typically less than $50. And I offer that more as a way to, give value, but also it's an easy decision for somebody to make. Like, spending $50 is not a huge investment. So from their point of view, and of course, I offer guarantees and refunds and so on, all these things. So, somebody buying that, diving into it and deciding it's not for them, it's not a huge investment, and it's not a big deal. And it's not a big deal for me either, because it's not my time. Does that make sense? So again, it's a small product. They buy it. If they like it, then of course, the next time they see something from me, they're more receptive to reading it or listening to it or even watching the video, because they like what they've got from me so far. So you can look at it as a hybrid. You can say, well, I'm going to have some courses, and I have other courses. I have courses which are in the hundreds of dollars, courses that are in the thousands of dollars. And again, they're just courses. So you've got this idea of, I can have maximum leverage, still have a massive impact on people, and still build a business that is incredibly profitable. Does that make sense? And it's scalable. More importantly, it's scalable. So get into a place, like multiple 6 figures, 7 figures is a straightforward. It's just a path for me. It's just straightforward. So how are you selling it matters. So it could be that you do a hybrid of that. You might say, look, I love the one-on-one coaching. Like I love groups more than I love one-on-one. I enjoy one-on-one, but I love the interaction with groups. So it makes sense for me to actually say, okay, well, how I'm selling this is as a group. So I'm going to do a hybrid. I've got courses, which are great. They're a profit center for my business. They allow me to reach people and give them a way to, if you like, ascend to a point where they'll see me in person. So I can impact them, I can generate revenue, and I can ascend them to a point where they might buy a bigger investment program, which I run as a group. So now I've got a hybrid. I've got courses and I've got that group coaching. So it's not something that needs to be done one-on-one. They can come in as a group. And again, you get to decide how big the group is. Like I know someone, for example, that is a friend of mine, and he runs groups of 4. So he'll run his program, and it is an 8-week program. So it's clearly defined. There's X number of modules. And then he shows up every week, so once a week, with the whole group, with the 4 people. So there's an opportunity for him to have some leverage, as in there's 4 people in there, it's not 1, but he still gets to spend some one-on-one time with each of them. Typically, because of the nature of where they're at, they're all got very similar problems, they've all got very similar outcomes. So what he's taking them through is obviously highly relevant to all of them. And if one of them's slightly ahead of another, it's not such an issue because there's only 4 of them. So it's easy for him to customize on the fly in the actual group calls. Does that make sense? So again, that's a hybrid. Now, other extreme is where you run something where you might have 100 people, or even, I've got I did a program years ago, and I was literally one of maybe 2,000 people on that call. So, the group programs where you've got thousands of people on a program at a time, where you're literally using the live question calls as Q&As, because of course what people are doing is bringing you their questions. You've given them a module, so from a hybrid point of view, you would give them some educational material, so typically video. They go through that video. Let's say it's a module. Again, we can stick with our 8-week time frame: module 1, module 2, module 3, and so on. So week 1, they've gone through the first module, and then in week 1 there could be a weekly Q&A session, and that Q&A session might run for a couple of hours. You might not be fixed to, I'm going to run this for an hour. It might be, okay, I'm going to run this for 2 hours, or until everybody's questions answered. So if it ends up taking 3-4 hours, it takes 3-4 hours. But of course, if you've got a couple of thousand people on there, a couple of thousand people are not going to have a couple of thousand questions. That's not going to happen, because by its nature, there are only so many questions that people ask based on where they're at. So you'll notice there are always patterns. So in a couple of thousand people who are on a program, one, they won't all turn up for the Q&A. That's the first thing. Secondly, some of them are just waiting for the recordings. And then the people that ask the questions, when one person asks a question, you can guarantee that probably maybe 25%, 50% of all the people on the program have got the same question. So you're answering it for all of them, not just for one. So that's another way to think about it. But again, you need to decide. It's your model. It's like, how much revenue do you want to generate? How many people do you want to put on a coaching program at once that you feel comfortable with, that you feel you can get a result for? Because it's very easy to get caught in the trap of saying, well, I want to maximize my revenue, so I'm going to put 2,000 people on my coaching program, and they're all going to spend, $1,000. So I'm going to make $2 million straight away every time I run my coaching program. But can you get that many people to a result? Are you comfortable doing that? Have you designed everything well enough that within your delivery, the material they get up front in terms of video and worksheets and whatever else, and then the actual Q&As, does that give them everything they need to get the result that they bought from you? So again, things to think about, questions to ask in order to create the business model that gives you the financial result you want, the impact you want, and the freedom that you want. So what are you selling? How are you selling it? And the third part, which you probably guess maybe, is how often are you selling it? So, excuse me. Let's go back to the group model for a second. Let's say you're running a group coaching program. Let's say you decided that, okay, look, I want more leverage. I'm happy to run a group program with a couple of hundred people on it. Great. Then it's like, how often do you want to run that? So you don't necessarily want to be running that every single week. Like, there's a lot of work behind the scenes, certainly the first time out the gate, to promote and launch a group program with a couple hundred people on it. In terms of your visibility and everything else, that's a lot of work. But let's say you've got the visibility and you run some sort of campaign, and we'll talk about campaigns tomorrow. So you run some sort of campaign and you get your couple hundred people on it. And let's say, again, the program is, let's say it's 8 weeks long again. So we'll stick with the 8 weeks. And again, let's say they get a video every week, and let's say you do a live Q&A every week. So at the end of the 8 weeks, you've just run it. You've had 200, 300 people through it. Let's say they paid, I don't know, anything from $500 upwards. Good chunk of revenue. And for 8 weeks, you're totally focused on this group of people. So for 8 weeks, you're flat out. You do a Q&A where it's like, look, I'll stay on the line as long as it takes to answer all your questions to make sure you're getting the result you want. You're making progress towards it. So for 8 weeks, you're totally focused on them. In that time, on a practical level, I can tell you from experience, you are going to have people emailing you questions. You're going to have people asking questions on the Q&A. There's going to be all sorts of things come up. There's going to be people who forget passwords and all this sort of stuff. It's like the technology side. You'll need some help with that just to kind of manage it. So for 8 weeks, you are totally focused on these people. At the end of the 8 weeks, it's like, oh my God, wow. So for 8 weeks, maybe you gave up a slice of your freedom in order to have a bigger impact, in order to generate a bigger amount of revenue. But do you then want to immediately, that 8 weeks is finished, start running another 8 weeks? Possibly not. Like, I wouldn't. So you might look at it and say, okay, look, if I map out my year, I might say I'm going to run an 8-week program once a quarter. So now I know in advance, at the beginning of the year, for 4 times a year, for 8 weeks, I'm going to give up a big slice of my autonomy and freedom because I'm going to be totally focused on these people, helping them get a result. But I'm happy to do that because, one, I love the interaction with the group. Secondly, I still have a lot of freedom because when you're doing a Q&A once a week and all the other questions that come in via email and everything else, all the little things, one, I can outsource all the technical stuff, let somebody else deal with password issues and all that sort of stuff. or somebody not being able to access a video. So I can outsource all that very easily. So that's not a problem. So I could run my business model that way, where I say, okay, I open the doors 4 times a week. I have an 8-module program. It's all pre-recorded. All I do is show up for the Q&A. It's fantastic. That's a lot of freedom, a lot of impact, and a lot of revenue. And so for that 8 weeks, I do that. And then, of course, I've then got, each quarter, I've then got 4 weeks where I'm not responsible to anybody. I don't have to show up at all. So you could think of it as like total autonomy, total freedom. And I just spend a month doing what I love doing as well, which is being creative, coming up with ideas, thinking how I want to have an impact, thinking what my next big set of goals is. Also, running my other businesses, because I like the idea of having other businesses and other income streams. That's me. That might not be you, but that's probably a conversation for another video. So look at it in those terms. You've got to think about your model for your business. Like right now, one of the things I've launched recently, and I'll probably do a campaign about this for the end of the year, is, I've launched the Den, the Strategic Rebel Den, which is kind of a newsletter format in the sense of it's a monthly subscription, and it's video mainly because I like doing video as opposed to doing written text. So it's videos each month where I'm sharing insights for course creators, people who want to build a course creation business. So I'm sharing insights for that, and it's a low entry. Ultimately it's going to be $49 a month. And by the time you get around to watching this, it may already be $49 a month. But, the early bird, the kind of get things started, it's $49 for the year, so it's a real kind of no-brainer, very low investment, just get in for the year. And then obviously, as I say, it's a newsletter format. But it's just a way of something which gives me a focus. It gives me a way to kind of grow my visibility in this space. And it gives me a way then to kind of say, so my business model will be that once a quarter, I'm planning to run a particular, a coaching program, which will run for anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks. Now, that might change. I might change it and say, actually, I want it to run for 12 weeks. I want it to run for 3 months, in which case I'm only going to launch it twice a year. Or maybe I get to a point over the next few years where I only run it once a year, because I know I've got everything in place. I've ironed out all the bugs, and I know that each year I could run it once a year. I could put effectively 1,000+ people on it. And I've already got my whole process nailed, so that I know that even if there's 1,000 people on it, I can still help 1,000 people. I can help them all get to the result they want, and I can make sure they get the return on the investment that I want them to get, both in terms of financials, freedom, and everything else that's going to come from it in terms of confidence and everything else. So you can look at it that way, but you've got to decide. This is really what I'm driving at. You need to decide what your business model is, because just running in default mode of going, well, I need to get clients one-on-one, that's not a business. That's a job. And you will end up burning out or not having the impact you want, or resenting your business, which means you're not leaving yourself time to be creative, time to come up with ideas, time to design an ongoing program, time to design videos and record them and create the modules, time to kind of give yourself the space to have the business of your dreams. Does that make sense? So if you want to have the impact, you want to have the freedom, the autonomy, and you want to have the income, you need to design your business model. Your business, like I look at the questions and comments I've seen in a number of Facebook groups, which are totally purely for coaches and people like that. And I see the comments. And if I take all the comments, if you think of it like symptoms, like if you go and see a doctor, they look at the symptoms and they make a diagnosis, because what they're doing is saying, these are all the symptoms. What's the cause? What's the root cause? And I'm a big fan of that sort of stuff, in the sense of, I want to know. Like when I used to teach NLP, I used to say to people, look, when somebody comes in to see you and it's more of a therapeutic type impact, or more of a therapeutic type intervention, they will tell you all sorts of things. And those are all the surface issues. Like imagine they're floating on the top of a swimming pool, there's leaves on the pool. Those are all the surface issues. And dealing with the leaves, you're just pulling out the leaves, throwing out leaves, you just clean the pool, but you'll only do it temporarily. It's a Band-Aid solution. But if you want to get to the real issue, you've got to dive deeper into the pool and find the plug and pull the plug out and drain the whole pool. And it's the same here. If I look at all the comments I see in these groups where, a post goes out and it asks a question, and then all the comments coming back from the coaches, I look at all of their responses and I go, okay, if I collect all their responses and they say, what's the deeper issue? The deeper issue is they haven't thought about their business model. So they've got caught in this place of kind of chasing their tail, because they haven't clearly defined what they're selling, how they're selling it, how they're packaging it, how they're selling it, and how often they're selling it. And because they haven't got that business model in place, they will, if they get to $10,000 a month, they'll be flat out and they will have no freedom. but the chances are they'll never get there. So they'll never see a six-figure income. They'll never see a multiple six-figure income for one simple reason. They haven't defined their business model. So my question to you as I end this is, well, first of all, let me make a statement. One, make time for this. And then my final question is, what do you want your business model to be? How much leverage are you going to bake in to your business model? All right, if you enjoyed this, leave me a comment, leave me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, I should play with this a bit more. As I said, I got StreamYard, which I think their logo's in the video, which is kind of nice. If you're watching this on YouTube, then subscribe. Woohoo! Got my overlay to work. Like little things make me very happy. So go subscribe, and I will talk to you again. Actually, as I'm recording this, I'll talk to you tomorrow because I said I've made a commitment to do a video a day for the next 5 days, Monday to Friday. All right, see you then. Leave me a comment. Talk to you then. Take care. Be blessed, and define your business model. Get that done so as you go into the new year, 2021, you're in a position where you can nail it, then scale it. All right, take it easy. Talk to you soon.